Hello, everybody. This is Aldous Hodge, and as you know, watchmaking is very important to me, and I'm proud to serve as a trustee of the Horological Society of New York. Now, since 1866, HSNY has worked to advance the art and science of horology through its educational programming and financial aid initiatives. Now, the Horological Society's annual gala and charity auction is our biggest fundraiser of the year, raising money that directly benefits watchmaking students in schools across the US. Now, this year, we won't have an in-person gala, but we are excited to partner with Philips in association with Fox and Russo to host our charity auction online. Now, today, I'm joined by the fabulous Tanya Edwards, a fellow trustee of HSNY and specialist at collectability, and Paul Boutros, Philips head of watches for the Americas. Together, we'll take a close look at the 7 incredible auction lots available for sale at the Horological Society of New York's 2021 charity auction. All right, Tanya, Paul, what's happening? How are you?
Very well. Absolutely delighted to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Same here. Great to be with you both. And thank you so much for the kind introduction, Aldous. It is our absolute pleasure to support HSNY and to host this charity auction. It will be held from June 7th through June 14th. Anyone wishing to bid on these 7 exceptional timepieces can visit philips.com. It's an online auction, and bidding will open at 9 a.m. on the 7th of June, which is a Monday, and bidding will close at 12 p.m. on the 14th of June, both Eastern Standard Times. We're also going to be hosting in-person viewings where anyone who has an interest in seeing these watches can come visit us at our headquarters in New York. Appointments are required, but we'll be happy to show you the timepieces firsthand. And the exhibition will be held from June 7th through June 12th. Again, 7 lots will be offered, and bid prices start at just $1,000. And please note there is a 26% buyer's premium for each lot, but Philips will be giving the net proceeds back to HSNY. So any buyer can be assured that 100% of the sale proceeds will in fact benefit HSNY. And one additional thing to note is every lot will be offered without reserve. That means any bid can win. So we encourage anyone who has at least a little bit of interest to bid, because you never know. You can get a great timepiece at a great price. But in all honesty, this is for such a great cause. HSNY's mission is to spread and educate watchmaking across the country. And it's a noble mission that we support, and we encourage all of you, please support and bid on these timepieces, and you'll be very happy with each of these timepieces, as they are exceptional, as we'll soon see. So why don't we get started? And I'm happy to start with the first lot of the auction, lot number 1, a lovely Rolex Air King from 1979. It is a reference 5500. It was ordered and custom made for an oil company named Pool Interdrill, which was a specialist oil company in the field of excavation equipment and supplies. This watch was given to one G.W. Kaufman. I guess it was his service watch, service since the 31st of July, 1978. The watch is exceptionally well preserved. It was generously donated by Eric Koo of 10 Past 10 Timepieces. We're offering it with an estimate of $2,000 to $3,000. And yeah, I welcome your thoughts. Tanya, Aldous, what do you think?
There's a wonderful history behind the Rolex Air King that I think people might be interested in. It was first introduced in 1945, and this particular watch was made by Hans Wilsdorf, who started Rolex as a tribute to the men of the British Royal Air Force who fought so valiantly in the Second World War. And Hans Wilsdorf had a very close connection to the UK that some people might not appreciate, because Rolex actually started in London, and Hans Wilsdorf was using Swiss movements at the time, but he went to London because there were great watchmakers in London. And he eventually had to move to Switzerland because during the First World War, watchmakers, just like most people, had to contribute to the war effort, and watchmakers are essentially engineers, and they were needed to help with, for example, timing mechanisms on bombs, navigation for planes and ships. And so he needed new watchmakers. So he went to Switzerland, which, as we know from history, was a neutral country, and during the war, and that's where history took place, that we know it today.
Absolutely. And I think this is first of all, it's a beautifully preserved watch, but something that I love about the aesthetic of this watch is I can see the history on it. You know, I love to see sort of not only the age, but the story of a watch when I look at it. This dial, I know it's quite interesting because it has some wonderful lume components on there that most people will not appreciate until they see it at night, which is fantastic. Because I know one difficult thing about watches sometimes is that, yeah, you like to tell the time at night when, you know, but it's really got a lot of great character. Very rarely do you see a Rolex dial share the same space with another imprint on there. So to have another imprint, that's really fun. And also just from a wearability standpoint, the fact that it's 34 millimeters, a lot of people might be intimidated by that, right? Because these days they're used to larger watches, but I think I've seen sort of a cyclical trend in that, you know, it's coming back down to what's smaller. But when you think about a watch like this size, you put it on and you wear it for a day or two, you realize it actually is quite complimentary, very comfortable. It's a very elegant size, and something that, again, as I mentioned, it takes away the space and the capacity, but it still maintains its volume of presence because of what it is, because of how elegant it is. So I think that it's a wonderful piece. Look, if you don't have it on your wrist, just to have it in your collection is significant.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a great size for women too.
Yes. And what do we have women to thank for, Tanya?
We have wristwatches to thank women.
Yes. A lot of people don't know that wristwatches were initially developed and created for women to wear.
They were a piece of jewelry.
Yeah, exactly. They were considered a piece of jewelry
because men either a pendant or a brooch.
Yes, exactly. So thank you, women, for this wonderful passion and hobby that we all get to dive into every single day.
Absolutely. Yes, yeah. Indeed, Aldis and Tanya agree completely and wholeheartedly about the versatility of a 34 millimeter diameter watch, especially a sport watch. It wears with great presence on any wrist size. And in this particular watch, I mentioned its exceptional state of preservation. The edges are very crisp. The pinholes for where the spring bars go into are very, very sharp. The dial is completely original. All of the luminous dots at the tips of each hour marker from 1 o'clock to 11 o'clock are perfectly intact. They've aged to a beautiful cream color, as has the dial, which was originally silver. It's aged to a lovely cream shade. In the image, you see some scratches on the crystal. The original crystal is even still fitted. It's a fantastic watch, accompanied with its original box. You can see that in the picture on the left. That is certain to delight any collector, connoisseur, or a person who just wants a great watch to wear every day with a terrific story to tell.
Well, it's so rare to have the original box, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Great thing to accompany with it. And again, the estimate is $2,000 to $3,000, but offered with no reserve, so this can sell for any price. We go to the second lot, a fantastic A Ships Chronometer, made in 1942 during World War II, and it was purchased and made for the British Hydrographic Service. In the field of shipboard navigation, one thing was extremely important, and that was a precision timekeeper in order to determine a ship's longitude and position at sea. So important was this timekeeper that, before the invention of a precision clock by John Harrison, many ships were lost at sea, and countless lives were lost. And then, of course, in 1759, John Harrison created H4, this revolutionary timepiece that really solved the challenge of finding longitude at sea. And here we have one watch with a descendant of the H4. It is a precision ship's chronometer, and it was made for another very important function at sea, and that is determining your charting and surveying. And that was the responsibility, at least in the UK, of the UK Hydrographic Office. So it was made for the Hydrographic Service, which was providing charting and surveying information to ships. A fantastic timekeeper. This is 56 millimeters in diameter, fitted with its original porcelain dial that is in immaculate condition. It is flawless and pristine, beautiful as well. Not a single crack. I'm going to turn to the next page. The watch has two cases. One is in silver, and then it's encased in a brass housing within a wooden box, as would be found on the ship, to preserve it from the elements. Silver was used for these ships' chronometers because of its resilience and its ability to withstand the elements at sea. So sterling silver case, and you can see one interesting detail. You can see the movement serial number is stamped with a machine, but the movement serial number, the 122757, which is different than the case's serial number, is hand engraved beneath the movement serial number. You could see beneath the case's serial number, you could see how these were hand adjusted, hand regulated. I think in the prior chart, we see here that, that the watch was certified as a top class chronometer. It's the very best quality that Ulysse Nardin could offer, adjusted to 5 positions. And Aldis, I believe you are a watchmaker. You know how difficult it is to do precision adjustment. But one thing that is really wonderful in this timepiece and makes it extremely special is the fact that it has a Guillaume balance and blued steel hairspring. And that combination back in the day was the absolute state of the art. It was a discovery by a gentleman named Charles Guillaume, who won the Nobel Prize in Physics for that combination of invar and brass combined with a steel spring that corrected for temperature errors across the board, perfect for seaboard use. And this has its original escapement intact. It has a frosted gilt finish, and it's simply superb.
Yeah, I have a few things that just off the top of my head about this particular piece. The thing that I love is that watches initially, and still are, of course, time-telling devices, they're tools, but they were used for so much more than just telling time, right? And when I look at a watch like this, it speaks to that importance and to that history directly and immediately, which is what I love, because when you're telling a story about what this is and what it actually means and how people used it, you get a completely different appreciation for horology entirely. I love the indices. I love the composition. If you actually want to learn more about, for our bidders and collectors, if you want to learn more about Harrison, there's, of course, the great book that most people know, Longitude. But this thing just speaks history to me. And as a watchmaker and a lover of design, I base my foundation from history. So it teaches me everything, especially the movement. When I look at that movement, it's just poetry. And I'm looking at the finishing, I'm looking at the composition, I'm looking at everything, and speaking to the balance, as you said, it makes, this was designed to sort of autocorrect issues when it came to heat and temperature changes, right? Because if you look at where it's cut on the actual balance wheel, what that is when watches, or when metal gets too hot, it expands. When metal gets too cold, it contracts, almost to a degree like a living thing. So in this case, the way this was designed and why it was designed in such a way was because it's allowing itself to, when it expands, it leaves itself a little bit more open to still autocorrect for time adjustment, so you're not losing or gaining too much time, right? You know, when it expands, gets a little slower, contracts, it spins a little bit faster. So the way this particular balance wheel was designed was specifically to offset those particular infractions so that it can still autocorrect and maintain its timekeeping at a good rate, regardless of whether it's too hot or too cold.
Exactly.
Well, it's Ulysses Nardin was renowned for its extraordinary accurate marine chronometers, and in fact, between from the late 1800s until 1950, they supplied marine chronometers to over 50 of the world's navies. So it just shows how extraordinary these movements were and appreciated by the world, basically, for the most important navigational reasons. And it's really just extraordinary that this piece, as Paul, you started off saying how the enamel is in perfect condition. Now, this was on a ship. This was a cool watch. It was being knocked about, and even hence why it's in a box. But even so, it's so rare to see a perfectly preserved enamel dial. I mean, this is exquisite. And you know what? It would make the most beautiful desk clock. I would love to have this on my desk, open the lid and look at this beautiful thing every day and know that it is telling me the most accurate time I can see. It's very, very special piece, very special.
You know, the quality of the dial speaks to the construction of the case and how specific and accurate they were, the watchmakers were, because any minimal crack that lets in air and condensation, enamel is over time, you're going to see that age, you're going to see those cracks. This is an airtight vacuum. So I really think about, okay, 1942, how great the watchmakers were, especially when putting this piece together, because that's something that, of course, you're talking about preserving the machine. But when you think about the tools that they had versus the tools we have today, I'm like, wow, how superior must you have been in terms of engineering to understand how to preserve such a thing so succinctly up until this time, you know?
So right, Aldous, that's just such an important point about the extraordinary ability of these watchmakers. And think, this watch, the history that this watch has seen, it went through World War II. I mean,
right.
mind-blowing.
On a surveying ship, the case back is engraved HS2, a hydrographic surveying ship. It was used to really help the Navy navigate. Such an important tool, and as you guys mentioned, the aesthetic is sublime. These beautiful spade blued steel hands. It also has center seconds, which was not direct. It was indirect back then. It was like a miniature chronograph, so it added gear train, which makes it even more complex and wonderful. And it even comes with an extract from Ulysses Nardin's archive, and it was just a wonderful era of Ulysses Nardin, which through the 1960s were active participants in chronometer competitions for movement sizes of all types, including wristwatches. A real wonderful company that was dedicated to timekeeping precision and still today making state-of-the-art watches full of innovation, such as the Ulysses Nardin Freak. And it's thanks to Ulysses Nardin who actually donated this timepiece. And with an estimate of $2,000 to $4,000, I can't think of a better way to spend money than this.
Agree, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So thank you for your thoughts, Tanya and this. We now go to the third lot, an extraordinary Patek Philippe Grand Ellipse. It's a reference 3589 in 18-karat white gold. It's from 1973, and interestingly, and I'm certain Tanya will know this, the Ellipse was introduced in 1968 but it was the first model ever to be fitted with Patek Philippe's version of the legendary Jaeger-LeCoultre caliber 920. This was the ultimate self-winding, ultra-thin movement. It was the world record holder for the world's thinnest full-rotor automatic, designed in partnership with Jaeger-LeCoultre was the lead developer, but Audemars Piguet, Vacheron Constantin, and Patek Philippe all worked together to design this movement in the midst of the quartz crisis. And so exceptional was this movement that it's still used today in Audemars Piguet's Royal Oak and in certain Vacheron Constantin wristwatches. So here you have the earliest model fitted with that legendary movement that was also in the first generation Nautilus, which would come out in 1976. This example is large with a beautiful blue gold dial, engraved Roman and baton hour markers. These are engraved into the surface with the blue dial, it's blue gold, having a wonderful soleil pattern. The watch is just fabulous. It's also a model that's still produced today, and would love to hear your thoughts, Tanya.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to butt in here straight away because the Ellipse is my absolute favorite Patek Philippe, and in fact, I'm wearing one today. I'm wearing a 58.
Oh, very nice.
That's on a rather unusual bracelet that was made for it in Zurich by a jeweler in Zurich. But yes, Paul, you were absolutely right. This was introduced in 1968 at a time where the watch industry was really suffering from the quartz crisis, and it really helped Patek hugely in terms of awareness, because it became this iconic look. And specifically in the 70s, when this watch was made, the Ellipse was really regarded as a symbol of international sophistication. And I have a wonderful quote actually from Thierry Stern, who is the president of Patek Philippe, and it's his family, the Stern family, that have owned Patek since the 1930s. And when he was a child, when this watch came out, he thought of it as a piece to be worn by very classy people. So it has this wonderfully exotic history to it. But it's, as you said, Paul, it's still in the Patek Philippe line. So for over 50 years, they've been making this now iconic design, and there's a reason for that. And first is the actual shape, the elliptical shape, which is based on something called the golden section or the divine proportion, which is this ratio that, I mean, it's a mathematical ratio, and it actually dictates the perfect point at which to divide a line into two harmonious but unequal lengths. And we see this divine proportion in nature all the time. We see it on a branch and the way that the buds are spaced. We see it in the human face and the oval of a face and where the eye line is placed. And so it appeals to us naturally, this beautiful elliptical shape. And the other reason is, Paul, you mentioned the blue dial. The blue dial is absolutely sensational. It really shimmers, and I find myself staring at my dial and just getting lost in it because there's such huge depth, because it literally is gold, blue gold. And Patek pioneered the ability to make blue gold. And it's actually created by vaporizing cobalt with 24 karat gold, and then allowing that to condense on 18 karat gold, which is the base of this dial. And you get a solid gold dial with this depth that cannot be replicated in any other materials. So it's very special, for sure.
There's really not much more I can add to that. Oh yeah. I would definitely completely agree in terms of the depth of the color, the tone, the hue of that dial. It is staggering. I was going to expound on the shape because I particularly like it. It takes me back to the 70s. It gives me a vibe, but I think time to covet it. But I would like to talk about the caliber, the 28255. I mean, that for me represents the fact that you have, Patek, Audemars, Vacheron, all in the same house that work together to create that this is literal legendary walking horological history in your hands right here. But I think it speaks to the bigger picture of what the horological community is and what they can do when they come together. We see it, every now and then when we see collaborations and people work together, because you just have a lot of brilliant minds that converge and come together to solve a problem. As we know, this was coming during the quartz crisis. Something like this, pressure cooker creates beautiful innovations, and this is what they all did. They got together, they worked together. So it speaks to me the community, the brotherhood, and that's what this watch particularly represents in my mind when I think about how we continue to and try to pull each other up, lift each other up, and just work together, pushing forward for the love of horology. And again, you have all three in the same house under the skies, and then you have the lovely, legendary Patek name on there because of their design, because of their pushing the limits, because of what they wanted to do in terms of creating what I feel like is the embodiment of eloquence here. But yeah, it theoretically represents so much to me when I think about, as a watchmaker, how to move forward, what I want to do, what I want to give to collectors, and what I want to share with them. Not just the watch, we're sharing our passion, we're sharing what it is we believe in and why we do it, and we're sharing the love of engineering and working with other brilliant minds, and that's exactly what this represents.
Wonderful insights, Tanya and Aldis. Very much appreciate your thoughts. I absolutely agree. The Swiss are perhaps one of the most competitive cultures on the planet, and when faced with adversity, boy, do they come out with innovations, just as you mentioned.
Exactly.
In the 28255, the JLC 920, that is really one of, and also the Ellipse. It's one of the gems that came out of difficult times. This watch was generously donated by John Reardon of Collectability. We're thrilled to have it. The condition is really well preserved. You can see the sharpness on the case back. The brush finishing is from the factory. The brush finishing on the outer rim of the bezel is also from the factory. The dial has not been restored in any way, and it's being offered with an estimate of $4,000 to $6,000. Without reserve, I'll mention again that any bid can win, so don't hold back.
Don't hold back.
Next, we have lot number 4. It is a 18 karat yellow gold Rolex date, again measuring 34 millimeters in size, reference 1500. The watch was made in 1980 and is again exceptionally well preserved. Very sharp, an original champagne color dial with all luminous hour markers intact. It has applied yellow gold hour markers, which have black enamel inlays for greater legibility. Really a classic timepiece. The Rolex date model was introduced in 1955. It's different than the Datejust, which measures 36 millimeters in diameter, introduced in 1946. So this came out almost 10 years later. The 1500 was introduced in 1960 and produced for several decades. This example is being offered with an estimate of $3,000 to $5,000 in solid 18 karat gold, an exceptional bargain. And I welcome your thoughts, Aldis and Tanya.
You said it, an exceptional bargain. Look, if you got this sitting right in front of you and you starting at 3 to 5, jump in, don't wait, go for it. The thing that I noticed from this piece automatically, as you said, it's very well preserved. You think 1980, yes, it's 18 karat yellow gold, but when it comes to gold in terms of how it's treated, typically the properties of gold, they oxidize over time, and gold often tends to lose its luster, right? Or its boldness. What I feel like I see in this particular watch is that the tone has gotten richer, and it has maintained and held its I want to say not its sort of a tonal foundation, but to a degree just that. I feel like there's an improvement, over time, which is what I love about you know, older watches, vintage watches, when you have oxidation that happens where it actually improves the aesthetic art of the product over time. I think that's a fun part of why we collect, because we're collecting for the lifespan of the watch to engage our watch, our art, our tool through ages, and to see how it matures and grows as we grow with it, right? And for this, I think it has only improved. And that's what I love about just the robustness of when I see this watch, it's striking, but that is the first thing I think is that it's such, it catches me because it's I don't know, there's like a romance to the color. There's something that just pulls you in and you're like, ah, look at that. It's wonderful. Look at this thing.
Yeah.
You know?
To your point, Alice, I'll just quickly jump in. When we see patina develop, it's a sign that the watch was unused for a long time, that it sat in the drawer. And that's the type of watches collectors love most, is that the watch wasn't abused, it was actually cherished. And probably worn only for special occasions. And maybe they lost interest for a decade or two, which allows the gold to develop that patina, and it keeps the watch well preserved. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And it hasn't been polished. That's the other sign of this beautiful patina. And hence these beautiful crisp edges and perfect condition. It's really a super piece.
And indeed, you mentioned that it's unpolished. And for those unfamiliar with why that's important, so few watches, especially vintage watches, have survived the decades without having seen a watchmaker restore the case. And when you restore a case, when you refinish a case, yes, it takes out scratches and flaws and nicks. However, it removes metal, and it removes the factory lines that only the original factory machinery and craftsmen can place. So to find an unpolished vintage watch is very rare and very sought after, and that's what we have here.
Yeah, oftentimes I hear from collectors, they send their watches in and they beg them, please just fix it, don't polish it, because they want to keep, you know, there's a difference between getting a watch back that looks like new or brand new versus a watch that you know you've grown with, that has a story, that tells a story. And that's where you as a collector hold the value, find the value, and keep it. So the fact that it is unpolished it is very much a rare thing, and I believe only adds to the actual value of what this piece is.
And the fact that it's offered on a strap, you can change the straps and have such a good time with this. You know, it's a champagne dial with yellow gold. There's so many great strap combinations. Each time you put on a new strap, it will look like a new watch. The watch was donated by Eric Wind of Wind Vintage at $3,000 to $5,000. Once again, an exceptional value and offered without reserve. Lot number 5 is a very fun, very unique Grubel Force 8. It's a Meccano double tourbillon concept model made in a limited edition of 150 examples in 2014 to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Grubel Forsey's very first watch launch, the double tourbillon 30 degrees. The story behind it is back when Stephen Forsey was designing the concept of an angled tourbillon. There's 2 tourbillons actually in that watch, one angled at 30 degrees and the other exterior tourbillon that surrounds it. This concept was built for maximum accuracy, to counter the effects of positional errors and gravity. And in order to conceptualize it, he thought back to his childhood where he loved Meccano sets. And in 2002, while he was at his family home, he dug up his Meccano set and put his concept to life with a model just like this for himself, so that he could share it with other watchmakers and with the industry. And that set the course for him creating that timepiece. So on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of the brand, you know, Grubel Forsey, of course, it's well known amongst connoisseurs for being exceptionally well finished. Their timepieces, very well adjusted, and pushing the absolute state of the art in terms of hand craftsmanship and precision. And here we have this fabulous piece. And what's so interesting about these, so it's an edition of 150. The Grubel Force team went to eBay and online dealers finding Meccano parts and sets and put these all together from things that they found. So it'll be very difficult to find two identical versions. They were cleaned up, repainted, and then given to people who were very close to the brand, collectors and connoisseurs, during SIHH in 2014. With its original box and pamphlet, donated by Grubel Force, offered with an estimate of $1,000 to $2,000. It is a superb conversation piece for your desk. You wind it up with that crank that you see there, and you'll see a working model of a double tourbillon. How cool is that, guys?
Totally cool. Wow. So, Elvis,
Yeah.
do you make watch movements like this at home?
So I'll let you know exactly. Look, some people have heard my story before, how I came into watchmaking in the first place. I started by studying other people's machinations, right? Things that just caught my eye because movements really inspired me. It wasn't about the why, it was about what can I make and how can I show you time telling in a different way. Grubel Force was one of the first, if not the first, company that I saw that really inspired my mind to design differently. So I started there. They inspired me to really become a designer first, and then I started studying other brands and their DNA intricately. But Grubel Force was really that first catalyst for me, which I still hold near and dear to my heart. So please believe that I'm definitely bidding on this. I invite anybody who wants to come to outbid me. It's gonna be a fight. Let you know now. But this for me, because I'm a self-taught horologist, you're dipping into an area where it seems like there are impossibilities. But when you have examples like this that you can learn from, the education that comes from it, there's no impossibility. You can learn from anything. And for them to put their art into this particular space, I mean, this is in capturing the 30-degree incline for their tourbillon, of which most people famously know in their watches, but to be able to have it right here, to understand how the machination works, and then to see what it actually becomes on the wrist, you have just a fully fermented appreciation for what it is they have to do and how they go into it. For me, I can explain to somebody the difficulties and the challenges that go into the idea of composition and design and building when you have a sculptural piece of art like this. And from that, the value is that somebody gains a wholly new realized appreciation for horology, and they get to understand it from a different perspective. But this is, to me, it's brilliant. I believe I've seen only one of these in real life ever. and the opportunity for it to come up here, the opportunity to bid on something like this for me is, as an appreciator of Grubel Force, of their work, of what they do and how they sort of have reinvented the wheel, so to speak, when it comes to tourbillon. It's, I think it's a wonderful opportunity. Like I said, I will be bidding on it. I hope that I would be happy to lose the bid. Not too happy, but for anybody to jump in there, just because I think that this art needs to continue to be shared and spread with the world in order to help people just learn and grow and understand what it is we do.
Well, it's so inspirational that here's a child's toy that's being turned into a tourbillon. I mean, it's extraordinary. It's mind-blowing. And as you said, Aldous, it's just so inspirational, and it opens up our minds so much to this incredible art that there's an opportunity to do something like this. And it's very generous of Grubel Force to donate it to HSNY. And as you said, Paul, a super fun thing to have on your desk. Definitely a talking point. Yes. So watch out. Aldous is bidding.
Yes, bring on the bidding. It's absolutely ingenious that you mentioned it, Tanya. A child's toy can simulate a super complex double tourbillon. It shows the mind of Grubel Force that they could take the most complex and boil it down to the most basic. Even a child's toy could replicate.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Fantastic. To lot 6, the
Yeah.
second to last lot of the auction. A beautiful Grand Seiko automatic GMT, the reference FBGM 239, limited edition made for Hodinkee. The watch is from 2020. It features this beautiful twilight blue dial. And in fact, this reference was the very first to be offered in the Americas with a stainless steel bracelet. Normally it was sold with a strap. So for this Hodinkee limited edition, you had the opportunity to obtain the watch with a fabulous 3-link stainless steel bracelet. The dial's color is something special. It evokes, the sky at the period between sunset and the onset of dusk. The color is a chameleon. So depending on the lighting, it's going to change colors where it can look like a bleu de France, or even a lapis blue in certain situations. It has an in-house self-winding movement that's very, very well made, machine finished, but to a very high degree. The case measures 39.5 millimeters in diameter, and the watch is brand new, accompanied with its box and original certificate. It is now long sold out. The original retail was about double the starting bid. So here again, an exceptional opportunity for people who love Grand Seiko, which is a really fantastic brand, making watches of great value, but exceptional quality, especially for their prices. The case is mirror polished, Seiko's Zeratsu finishing on the bezel and the sides. My favorite feature of these watches are the hands of all things, how they're flat at the top with wonderful facets at their edges. That's just a symbol of precision that I adore. So yes, I turn it over to you both.
Personally for me, I don't know if Grand Seiko gets enough credit for how brilliant they actually are, especially when it comes to their dial work. I've seen some of the most incredible dials on their watches. And that's the thing that I love so much about this dial in particular, is because you do get to play with it. You do, you might have a different watch at a different hour of the day. You never know. But I think that their composition is incredibly clean. The case is wonderfully handsome. I think they do a great job. Like you said, they do offer a lot at a fantastic price. Their value is insane. So for me, this is, again, I mean, like all the lots here, snatch it while you can, just because this is sort of a rare offering. It's a lot. If you really think about it, this is a lot in a small package. And then when I'm thinking about how the layout is, when you get the 24-hour markers for the GMT, usually, again, sometimes the dials can be a little confusing to read hard. This is very clean and clear. So I know exactly what it is, when it is, how it needs to be. I just think it's a very handsome watch. It's something that can swim between, the sport world to me, and also the classy, I'm going to go to a meeting and do my thing. But I think that the brilliance of Grand Seiko is they really know how to offer a great deal of innovation and maintain that balance of great value, great product, but also great design initiative to keep pushing that needle further,
That's absolutely right, and as you said, Aldous, the dial is just exquisite, and the fact that it's going to change throughout the day is so special. And Paul, to your point about the hands, there's a lot of work went into those hands, and we don't think of that as being an issue. You know, you think, oh, it's just stamped out by a machine and off you go. Well, these have beveled edges, which takes a lot of work to do. It reminds me, funnily enough, of the hands from, say, a Louis Cotier World Time, where he himself would have hand engraved those hands, because it was so important. That the dial really matters, and all these details really, really matter. And yes, lucky us at HSNY to have a brand new piece like this available for auction.
Yeah, and I can tell you about those hands. It is not an easy game. When you're beveling, if you file one too many times, you're done. You have to start all over. You know, you have to get the angle right. The anglage. It's hands are some of the most difficult things to do. And when you have a specimen like this, is super thin, and as you're speaking to the beveling itself, that is an art form on its own. So that's something for people to understand how to appreciate in a different way, just because of the work that really does go into it. You know, it's something you may not think about initially, but when you study it and you see exactly how beautiful it is, and you look at the bevel and you can see your reflection in it, then you get to understand what went into the polishing, how many hours it took, what went into the actual filing, all of these different things to shape the actual hand. I'm really happy that you pointed that out, Tanya, because it's, you know, something that you don't really think about on a regular, but you see how in this picture, even the lighthouse reflecting off of the beveled edges, it's sparking at you, saying, hello, I'm here.
Perfectly matching the faceted hour markers too.
Yes.
So the dial will really gleam with light and shine and sparkle and delight you throughout the day. In addition to that beautiful blue color. The watch was generously donated by Grand Seiko in collaboration with Hodinkee, and it offers terrific value, as we talked about, with a starting bid of just $3,000. Next is the final lot of the auction, and it's the top lot of the sale. It's the Arnold and Son HMHSNY, a unique piece created specifically for HSNY for this auction, dated 2021, truly state-of-the-art, and it features a hand-painted mother-of-pearl dial with this iconic view of the Manhattan Bridge, as seen from Washington Street in Brooklyn's Dumbo, framed by two red brick buildings. The painting is done in miniature, using a microscope and a multi-layer process. The artisan uses a single hair paintbrush, and the pigments used in certain spots are mixed with luminous material. So it's actually a day-night watch that is truly remarkable. It's fitted with an in-house movement, measuring 30 millimeters in diameter. It's actually made specifically for this case, so it fills it perfectly. It's just 2.7 millimeters in thickness. It has 2 barrels for 90 hours of power reserve, manually winding, obviously, with hand finishing throughout, beautiful sunray pattern Côte de Genève, a fantastic anglage on all the bridges, done by hand. And the case measures 40 millimeters. It's an 18 karat rose gold. And the next chart shows you a view of the watch in darkness, how the lights of the bridge light up, as do the windows on those brick buildings. It's brand new, unworn, a unique piece, offered at $5,000 to $10,000. I look very forward to your thoughts once again, Alice and Tanya.
Wow.
You want to start, Tanya? Yeah.
I mean, this is a superlative timepiece. I mean, it really is. And what a joy to see this miniature enameling painting, because it is so rare that, I mean, you can count on one hand, really. First of all, the number of watchmakers that can do this, and then the number of people that can do this. This is from Arnold and Son's Métier des Arts department, and very few watchmakers have a Métier des Arts department now. And what does that mean? It means these handcrafted, traditional watchmaking decorative skills. So other examples would be cloisonné enameling, engraving, marquetry, and this is just mind-blowing to me. It's such a work of art. It truly, truly is. And you've got the combination of this extraordinary painting and the way that it goes from day to night. I'm so glad you're showing this night picture. How clever is that? I mean, it's genius idea to take this very old-fashioned traditional art form, which is miniature painting, and put technology like that on it. It's just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And the movement is superb. Atlas, I'm going to let you talk about the movement, but HSNY are so privileged to have this piece, and the fact that Arnold and Son made it for us is just the most generous, wonderful gift.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is the value that is in this watch is just insane. Well, I gotta go to the dial. I gotta start with the dial, right? Because yes, it is a hand-painted dial, but it's hand-painted on top of mother of pearl. Let's talk about what that means. So yes, when you're handling a dial, you're hand painting usually, like, you know, that brush is 1 or 2 hairs at that, but usually 1 hair for specificity. That takes hours upon hours. When you're handling metal, when you're handling mother of pearl and you're painting and that mother of pearl disc cracks, you have to start from scratch. So imagine the patience, the time, the talent, the precision that goes into every single little brush stroke on such a wafer thin dial. That, to me, I'm looking at it thinking about, you literally have a full-blown portrait, a master level portrait on top of a masterful dial, because being able to make a mother of pearl dial is, and again, in itself, a feat of brilliance. It's not, I'm actually making one now. It is not an easy thing. You lose a lot of material and time. So for them to show so much expertise and skill in so many areas of this particular watch, even going back to their original movement, their in-house, that speaks to the prolific nature of what the brand actually is. And for them to create this for HSNY, I mean, I can't even tell you how incredibly generous that is. But this, to me, is a mega offering. The fact that it lights up is insane. But not only does it light, it has the bridge lights. It's got somebody's house, somebody up in, you know, the thought that went into the composition of the painting, what went into where they're placing the lights, even creativity, as Tanya said, the imagination that went into, you know, I'm going to put a bridge on there and put the lights and the loom on the bridge. How many times have you seen loom used this creatively? I don't know. I can't count.
I can't think.
I haven't seen
it.
Yeah. So I think just all around, man, this is definitely a piece unique. I would be very proud to have on my wrist. So I'm kind of happy there's only one, but at the same time, I wish there was a few more, because I know somebody's going to snatch this up and I won't get a chance to get it. That's cool. I'm gonna be in my feelings for a little bit. It's all right. I will get over it. I will live. But but I own an Arnold and Son. I know they do superb work. Their movements are brilliant, and I love how the company has, you know, sort of revamped itself and gone into development. They really put a lot into their production and their original development of original movements. So you know, they're a force to be reckoned with, and I think that this is the value you get out of this particular piece is insurmountable.
Terrific.
Oh, no words. It's so beautiful. Look at the hands.
Yeah.
The hands are all
I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
It has an oversized crown, which is great for a manually wound movement. It feels good and looks good. The case has mirror polish finishing, but also a brush finishing on the lugs. Just attention to detail throughout. Very, very nice timepiece.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Someone is going to be very lucky to own this timepiece, that's for sure.
They will
it's
be.
A wonderful tribute to the collectors of New York.
Absolutely. And I lived in Brooklyn. I was like, It's special to me.
Just another watch for you to bid on.
Exactly.
So that concludes the watch presentation. The 7 lots, all offered without reserve, all priced very well. Allow me to stop sharing my screen and bring us back here.
You know, I guess that wraps things up. You know, I've had a fantastic time. I know the collectors have had a fantastic time listening. Paul, thank you so much, brother, for your knowledge. Tanya, for your knowledge. Thank you all. This has been a fantastic conversation. Cannot wait to start bidding. And, you know, look, for our collectors out there, look, I would say just bid, have fun. You know, we again, love the fact we know we can't do this in person, but we love the fact that we can even do it at all. And we're so happy to share this space and this time, and these wonderful pieces of art with you. We cannot wait to see what the results are. So all I can say is happy bidding and thanks for your time.
Thank you, Aldis. Thank you, Tanya. Please visit phillips.com for the auction June 7th through June 14th, where bidding will be open. And please keep in mind that you may be eligible for a charitable tax donation as well. So bid with confidence, and we look forward to welcoming you if you're able to make it to the in-person read. Thank you again, everyone.